Hey, welcome back to Wednesday Night Recap. We just finished session 2 of Andy Stanley's series, The Time of Your Life. And this week's was titled At Capacity. And, well, we were talking just before we turned the camera on, and Brandon was memorizing the catchphrase that priority determines capacity. And I want to suggest, too, that not just priority determines capacity, but the intentionality of what you do, the strategies you come up with. And we may talk about those in a moment. I'm not sure where we're going to go with this. But the overarching theme of what Andy presented tonight was you have to put God first.
Right.
And that's the key, you know. He didn't quote it, did he, out of Matthew 6, seek ye first the kingdom of God?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
he did get to that, that if we'll, that God knows what we need.
Yeah.
He knows what's important to us, so that if we'll put him first and give him priority,
everything else will fall into place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's not a magical thing, but it is and I'm not a fan of formulas, but it's true. If you put him first,
Right.
Then everything else. And the old priority list that we've always heard in church was God first, then your spouse, then your family, then your job, then your ministry. And I think that's really helpful for people to keep that in mind.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So as I was going to say, priority determines capacity, but I think priority also increases capacity.
Right. Yeah.
Again, keeping God first will give you the time that you need to do all the other things.
And in his illustration with the jar and all of that, it was, you even had room for more.
Yeah.
Assuming you're putting God first. And we talked about how we waste time, and we talked about screen time on our phones tonight, and it's kind of discouraging when you see how much time you've been on their phone. Granted, some's work. Somebody brought up it was all work related. But most of the time it's not.
Yeah.
It's just killing time.
And these are supposed to be time-saving devices.
Yeah,
they're supposed to save us work, effort, time. And really what they're doing is helping us, I think, to waste time.
Yeah, for sure.
You really, well, I said it to someone on the way out tonight. One man's trash is another man's treasure. And I think sometimes one person's what appears to be wasted time is actually just relaxation.
Right.
So, we're not condemning anybody.
Right.
And it's hard to account for every moment of time, just as I think sometimes it's hard to account for every penny spent.
Right.
That's what accountants are for. They look at every single thing in that line item and all the way, and I think the same thing with the time. I don't think we need to be critical. But what I do want to do, because this might be helpful to people that missed tonight's session, was some of the individual strategies that we can do. After putting God first, there are some things we can do. One of the things I mentioned that I've learned to do recently is to catch up on phone calls while I'm driving.
Right.
Of course, hands-free, okay? I've got either Bluetooth in the car speaker or I have an earpiece in. And they're so good now, you don't hear all the road noise and all the car noise around you. So, it's okay to do some really important phone calls.
Sometimes I get in the car and think, ooh, I wanted to call that person. I didn't get a chance. And now you got 15, 20 minutes where you're just, I got to be careful. Sometimes I've done that and realized, man, I just drove all this way. How did I get from point A to point B?
Yeah, there's probably still some danger involved. Another thing that someone mentioned was audiobooks.
Yeah.
You can get a lot of reading done just, pop it in your MP3. Is that what we still call these things? Or just the Bluetooth through your car radio. And listen to a book going back and forth on your commute. Another thing I like to do, and this we talked about when we looked at Gary Thomas's series, I like to get involved with God out in nature.
Right.
And so if I'm running down the hill into the park from my house, or I'm going for an exercise walk, that's my prayer time.
Yeah.
So multitasking is what we used to call it.
Yeah.
And there were a couple others, I can't remember them.
Yeah, I was saying, Lynn, my wife, she can get she'll make phone calls, but she doesn't stand still.
Yeah.
it's hard to, in my house, it's hard to sit in a chair being on a phone call without somebody saying, who are you on with? And it's like, leave me alone. But she'll go to cleaning. She'll do all of this. She's proud that she got all this stuff done while she's been on the phone, because most of the time when you're calling AT&T or Verizon,
you're on hold
forever. So you got time to do stuff. But,
yeah. Well, as I mentioned, though, if you need an account number, you don't want to be leaning over the passenger seat in your car, so or reading it while you're driving. So it's got to be a pretty basic phone call.
Yeah.
But I've gotten a lot done that way.
Yeah, for sure.
Another one I had was movies. I mean, you can waste an hour and a half. Well, again, to some people, it's not a waste. I mean, some people enjoy going out to a movie or watching something, on Disney Plus, Apple Plus, and all the pluses that are out there, all the services that are available, streaming services. It wouldn't be a waste of time for some people. For me, I cannot afford to give up that 2 hours.
Right.
So if I've got an international flight and I'm traveling over to Asia or somewhere, I can catch up on my movies.
Yeah, that's a good time to do.
So, you just have to have some strategies and be intentional.
Yeah. I think, and some people have hobbies, and some people's hobbies is watching movies. So if it's the time allotted that,
Yeah, no condemnation, no criticism.
Right.
Just, again, one man's trash is another man's treasure.
Right. For you just...
For me, I just can't do it. I can't give up that 2 hour time slot, So,
especially when it's a bad movie. And you just
man.
really wasted 2 hours.
Yeah, because you kind of keep hoping you go a little bit further. But you know what? You go back 20 years ago, and we Pentecostals didn't watch any movies. So we got a lot more time. But again, international flights is where I get caught up.
Yeah, that's good.
So anyways, we've got one more session in this series next Wednesday. Then we're taking a break between Christmas and New Year's. And then we're going to come back and do session 4 and 5.
Yep.
So if you haven't been out, hey, start planning your New Year's resolution and come on out and be with us on Wednesday nights. So this Sunday, Pastor Hans is going to bring a great Christmas message, and I have the honor of sharing with you on Christmas Day. I'm really looking forward to my message. Pastor Brandon, you did a great job Sunday. It was really good. It's just what I was looking for when I said, guys, let's come up with some Christmas messages. I know Pastor Hans is ready.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great month. So anyways, we're going to wrap this up because we don't want to waste any more of your time. Have a good weekend. See you Sunday. God bless.